You've done everything right. You pulled over calmly. You kept your hands on the wheel. You handed over your license, registration, and insurance without a single complaint. The officer wrote the ticket. You thought it was over, and then you hear it. A car door opens, claws scratch on asphalt, and an officer walks up to your window with a leash in his hand and says 4 words that will make your stomach drop straight to the floor. We're running the dog. And here's where almost every ordinary, innocent American makes the single most expensive mistake of their life. Because in the next 60 seconds, they either hand that officer the keys to their car, their trunk, and their future, or they don't. The difference between those two outcomes is not luck. It's not innocent. It's not even having a good lawyer on speed dial. It's knowing exactly what to say and what never ever to do. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to give you the exact words, the words backed by real Supreme Court rulings, and I'm going to show you the one thing most people do the second that a dog walks up, the thing that feels completely harmless and is actually the move that destroys them. On this channel, I break down exactly what to say and what not to say when the police show up, using the real law and the real Supreme Court rulings that put you back in control. Quick honest note before we go any further. I'm a legal educator and commentator, not your attorney. This is education, not legal advice. Laws can vary from state to state, so for your specific situation, always talk to a licensed lawyer. Now, let's get into it. Section 1. What K-9 alert actually is matters so much. Here's the thing most people don't understand before they end up on the side of the road staring at a police dog. A K-9 alert is not proof of a crime. Read that again. A dog sitting, scratching, or barking at your vehicle is not evidence that you did anything wrong. It is not a conviction. It is not even a charge. In the law, it is what's called probable cause, a reason to search, not a reason to arrest. But here's why it matters so much. Probable cause is the key that unlocks your car. Without it, an officer cannot search your vehicle without your permission or a warrant. With it, he can open every door, every compartment, and every bag in that trunk. No warrant needed. And a K-9 alert, a dog that hits on your car, has historically been treated by courts as establishing that probable cause. So the moment that dog reacts to your vehicle, the legal landscape changes completely, and what you say and do in the next 2 minutes will either make things worse or protect every right you have left. Section 2. The trap. How ordinary people walk right into it. Let me tell you about a man. We'll call him David. David is 58 years old, retired, clean record. He got pulled over for a cracked windshield on a Tuesday afternoon coming back from his son's house. The officer was polite, friendly even, wrote the ticket, handed it over, and David thought he was about to drive away. Then the K-9 unit pulled up. The handler walked the dog around the car. The dog sat down near the rear bumper. Alert. And the officer came back to David's window and said in the friendliest voice you've ever heard, the dog indicated, "Do you have anything in the car I should know about? Just tell me now, and this goes a whole lot easier." And David, good, honest, innocent David, did what almost every single person does in that moment. He started explaining himself. "I don't have anything. I swear, I gave my grandson a ride last weekend. I don't know if he had anything. I don't think so. You can check if you want. I've got nothing to hide." And right there in that one breath, David did 3 things that cost him everything. He gave information the officer can now investigate. He introduced another person who can be questioned. And then, those 6 words at the end, "You can check if you want." He gave the officer his consent to search. David had just handed over the one protection the Constitution gave him. For free. Because he was nervous and he thought cooperation would save him. It didn't. Section 3. Why I have nothing to hide is the most dangerous sentence on the road. Here's what most people believe deep down in their bones the moment those blue lights appear in their mirror. If I'm honest, if I'm cooperative, if I prove I'm a good person, this will all be fine. I understand that instinct. I do. Most of us were raised to believe that authority responds to honesty, that good manners protect good people. But on the side of a road, with a badge and a dog and a report being written in real time, that belief can cost you everything. Because here is the truth the law actually reflects. You cannot talk your way out of a K-9 alert. There is no explanation that makes an officer who has probable cause say, "You know what? Never mind. Have a great day." But you absolutely can talk your way into more trouble. Every word you say is a thread he can pull. Every detail you volunteer is a door you're opening yourself. And every time you say something that doesn't quite line up, even accidentally, even innocently, it ends up in a report as, "Subject gave inconsistent account." That sentence, in that report, can follow you into a courtroom. Section 4. The law you need to know. The real Supreme Court rulings. Before I give you the exact words, you need to understand the legal ground you're standing on. Because when you know the law, you say these words with confidence, not fear. First, Illinois v. Caballés, 2005, the Supreme Court ruled that walking a drug detection dog around the outside of a vehicle during a lawful traffic stop does not violate the Fourth Amendment. In plain language, they are allowed to run that dog around your car while the stop is still happening. You cannot stop that from occurring. But, and this is critical, Caballés also assumes the stop itself is still lawful and hasn't been stretched out just to wait for the dog. Which brings us to Rodriguez v. United States, 2015. This is the one that protects you. The Supreme Court ruled that once the business of the traffic stop is complete, license checked, ticket written, the officer cannot extend the stop, even for a moment, to wait for a K-9 unit unless he already has independent reasonable suspicion of another crime. This is your clock. The stop ends when the stop ends. If that dog hasn't arrived and the ticket is already in your hand, the officer cannot hold you there just to keep fishing. What this means for you is simple. The less you say, the shorter that clock runs in his favor. And third, your Fifth Amendment right. Confirmed and clarified in multiple rulings, you are not required to answer an officer's questions during a traffic stop. But, and this matters enormously, simply staying silent is not enough. The Supreme Court made this clear. Silence alone can sometimes be used against you. You have to claim your right out loud, in words, for it to fully protect you. That's exactly what the phrase I'm about to give you does. Section 5. The exact words. Memorize these. Here are the words. Say them calmly. Say them respectfully, and say them the same way every single time, no matter how the officer responds. When the officer tells you the dog alerted, or when they approach to ask follow-up questions after the alert, you say this, "Officer, I'm not answering any questions. I do not consent to any searches. And I'd like to know, am I free to go, or am I being detained?" Say it again with me, slowly. "Officer, I'm not answering any questions. I do not consent to any searches. And I'd like to know, am I free to go, or am I being detained?" One more time. Picture the moment. The dog has alerted. The officer is at your window. And you look at him, calm and steady, and you say, "Officer, I'm not answering any questions. I do not consent to any searches. And I'd like to know, am I free to go, or am I being detained?" That's it. That's the whole thing. Let me break down exactly why every single piece of that works. Section 6, word by word. Why it works. Start with the first word. Officer, you begin with respect. Not sarcasm, not hostility, not attitude. Just the word that sets a calm, professional tone from the very first syllable. You are not fighting. You are not afraid. You are a citizen who knows the rules and states them quietly. Next, I'm not answering any questions. This is your Fifth Amendment right, claimed out loud, exactly as the Supreme Court said you must. You are not just staying silent and hoping he understands. You are putting him on notice. You are exercising your right. That is an express invocation, and that is the difference between protection and exposure. Notice what this is not. It is not a lie. You don't say you weren't somewhere. You don't invent an explanation. You decline to answer. Declining is a constitutional right. Lying to a police officer can be a crime. Keep those two things 1,000 miles apart. Then, I do not consent to any searches. If the K-9 alert gives the officer probable cause, he may be able to search anyway. But by saying these words clearly and out loud, you are protecting yourself in a courtroom you aren't even standing in yet. If that search was conducted improperly, if the alert itself was unreliable, if the stop was extended illegally, if anything in the process was flawed, those 5 words are what your lawyer uses to fight it. You said no. That's on record. Don't ever let it be unclear. And finally, am I free to go, or am I being detained? This is the question that forces his hand. It makes him choose and puts that choice on record. If you are free to go, you go. Calmly, politely, but you go. If you are being detained, then you stay. You comply physically with every lawful order, and you add nothing more than your name and documents. You do not explain. You do not fill the silence. You wait for your lawyer. Section 7. When he pushes back, the ladder. He's not going to love your answer. Here's how to handle every move he makes. Push 1. The friendly pressure. Come on, just tell me what's in the car. You cooperate with me, I'll cooperate with you. Your line, same calm voice as before. I understand, officer. I'm not answering any questions and I don't consent to any searches. That's all. You don't negotiate. You don't explain why. You don't promise anything. You repeat your line and let it sit. Calm repetition is your greatest asset. There's nothing to argue against. Push 2. The guilt moves. If you have nothing to hide, why won't you let me search? Innocent people don't act like this. Don't take the bait. Don't defend yourself. Don't start explaining your innocence, because the moment you do, you've entered the conversation, and every word is a thread he can pull. Your line, I understand, officer. I still don't consent to any searches. Push 3. The threat. Fine, I'll just get a warrant. Good, let him. Your line is calm and direct. That is absolutely your right, officer. I'll wait. This is a bluff in most cases. If he had enough for a warrant, he would likely have one already. Calling it calmly, without aggression, without sarcasm, is one of the most powerful moves you can make. Push 4. The command. Step out of the vehicle. Listen very carefully here, because this is where people get hurt. When an officer orders you out of the car, you comply. The Supreme Court in Pennsylvania v. Mims settled this. An officer can order you out during a lawful traffic stop with no specific justification required. You do not resist. You do not argue. You step out slowly, hands visible. But the moment you're outside, you say your line again, officer. I'm not answering any questions. I do not consent to any searches. Your body complies. Your voice protects you. Your fight, if there is one, happens later, in a courtroom, with a lawyer, in front of a judge. The roadside is his territory. The courtroom is yours. Section 8. The one thing most people do that destroys them. I promised you the move that feels harmless and ruins everything. Here it is. The dog alerts. The officer asks his question, and instead of saying the words I just gave you, the person in that driver's seat says one of these. I don't know what it smells like. I gave someone a ride last week. I use CBD oil. That might be what it is. My cousin was in this car over the weekend. I had some marijuana like a month ago, but there's nothing in here now. Every one of those sounds like an explanation. Every one sounds like transparency. Every one sounds like the thing a good, honest, cooperative person would say. And every single one of them just handed the officer something he didn't have before. A story to investigate. A name to run. A timeline to pull apart. A reason to keep you on that shoulder while he digs. You do not need to explain the dog. You do not need to give the alert context. You do not owe him a theory about why the dog reacted. The explanation game is a game you cannot win. There is no version of the story that makes him say, "Oh, well, that explains it." Drive safe, but there is one calm sentence that closes every door he's trying to open. Lock it in, let's bring it all home. When a K-9 alerts on your vehicle and that officer comes back to your window, here's what you do. You stay calm. You stay polite. You hand over your documents if you haven't already. And you say, "Officer, I'm not answering any questions. I do not consent to any searches. And I'd like to know, am I free to go or am I being detained?" You don't explain the dog. You don't introduce names or timelines. You don't fill the silence with anything. If he pushes, you repeat your line. If he orders you out of the vehicle, you comply physically, hands visible, no resistance, and you say your line again on your feet. And then you remember the one golden rule that holds every one of these encounters together. Comply with your body. Assert your rights with your voice. Fight it in the courtroom, never on the roadside. The roadside is his territory. The courtroom is yours. Your job on that shoulder is to give him nothing more than the law requires, and not one word beyond that. If this gave you even one sentence you didn't have before, one line that might someday save you hours, your record, or a whole lot worse, do two things for me. Hit that subscribe button, because the next video I'm putting out covers the move officers use right after the search, what they say when they want you to explain what they found. And that conversation has its own trap and its own protective words. You'll want to have them before you need them. And share this with someone who drives. Your spouse, your adult kids, your neighbor. This is the kind of knowledge that should be common. And it just isn't yet. I'll see you in the next one.